Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Deep True Crime. I'm Manny Rodriguez. In today's episode, I want to cover the Giggling killer. We covered this story before, but this is an add-on as we continue to find out more about who she is and her background. Now, the last time we shared and caught up on this story, it was about her being obsessed with serial killers, and then her doing the unthinkable to her boyfriend, and then giggling on a video stream with a friend and just acting like it was no big deal. And then she gave a reason for doing it, which only turned out to not be true in reference to him, Frankie Fitzgerald. So let's go ahead and dive into what we know about this serial killer obsessed person. Former school friends of Shaye Groves are coming out of the woodwork, and they're starting to describe a little of what they knew about her. One friend even called her a weirdo. Shaye Groves, they have been reflecting on her fetish for true crime, masochism, and BDSM as she begins her life sentence for murder. The mother of one who wore a satanic jacket and smiled as she was sentenced for the brutal killing of her lover, Frankie Fitzgerald, has doomed herself to a life of isolation while her young child grows up motherless. Rest in peace, Frankie Fitzgerald, pictured right here. Now, Groves, she was sentenced at Winchester Crown Court for slitting the throat of Mr. Fitzgerald before stabbing him 17 times in the chest in July of 2022. Now, a close friend of Groves from childhood, this is a picture of Groves when she was a child. This close friend is coming out and speaking anonymously about the warning signs of Groves, was nicknamed her childhood friend, Lauren White. And so she literally nicknamed her friend Chucky after this murdering doll that was after a movie, and her friend described her as quite strange. This is what Groves would refer to her childhood friend Lauren White as, Chucky. And Chucky, as we know, is a movie that was in the late 90s. This had a bunch of sequels to it. This friend said, we used to hang out. Shaye was quite strange. She was unique. The way she dressed, what she was into. She used to like Chucky dolls and was interested in them, which is probably why she referred to her friend. This was her friend that she referred to her was literally her roommate as well, that she referred to her as Chucky. Now, her friend said when she was younger, she was different to what she is now. She was more girly, but she was never like a girly girl, and she always stood out from the crowd. We'd all be in bright colors, and she'd be the one in dark clothes, even from that age. She didn't wear what she wore now. She wasn't a goth, but she was always unique. She's always been a bit strange. And according to this ex-friend, in recent years, Groves, she didn't socialize much with a lot of the people that she grew up with and her friends. She started changing, as at least this is what they're referring to her as. She started changing little by little over time. She was no longer that girly girl. She was always unique. That's what they described her. They said that she's always been a bit strange. That's what they shared about her. And so now, personally, I think that I should take this second to kind of remind you, generally, when people are speaking anonymously, maybe they I don't know if I should use the word generally, but we also have to be careful about the intake of information. I'm just going to say that even that as I do this. Because when people are being anonymous, there's a reason they're being anonymous. And this lady who's never going to be, who may never see the light of day again, she's going to be gone for a long time, but this person still wants to remain anonymous. But truth is, a lot of people want to share. They just don't want to let you know who they are because they don't want the media attention as well ongoing. I'm just speculating a little bit as to why all of these people are anonymous. But the reason why I'm sharing this is because it kind of actually coincides with what we have been learning about her since she was convicted of this. Let it be known, she has been convicted of this crime and she has been sentenced to life. So there is a lot of truth behind this, but of course people are sharing a little of who she was when she was young. So, and they say she didn't wear what she wore now. She wasn't a goth, but she was always unique. She's always been a bit strange. Now, according to an ex-friend, in recent years, Groves didn't socialize much and spent more time with Miss White and Vicky Beta, who reported her to the police after video calling her and showing her Mr. Fitzgerald's body. If you remember in the last video, I'll be sure to link it in the description where I share with you about her roommate, Miss White, who was arrested and then released, and Vicky Beta, who shared a lot of testimony in her trial, and she's the one who reported her to the police after the video calling, which she was showing, Shaye Groves was showing Vicky Beta Mr. Fitzgerald's body. She didn't used to go out very much. She used to stay in with Lauren and that Vicky Beta. That's what this ex-friend had shared, the anonymous friend. And speaking about Groves' friendship with White, she added, Lauren would do whatever Shaye wanted her to do. She was very manipulative. Lauren didn't have many friends, and Shaye used to be the one there for her. Now, earlier this month, or should I say earlier this month, jurors, they had convicted serial killer obsessed Groves of the charge of murder after a 5-week trial where she had tried to portray herself as his victim. And she was saying that she had some shocking things that she found on his phone about him communicating with a 14-year-old girl, which would later be found to not be true. And so then you find out that she is so obsessed with the Chucky character. She's obsessed with real life serial killers. That was the life. And so former friends, ex-friends, when they say she wasn't so goth at all. She was more bright colored, wearing like some of her friends were. And during this trial, that's when a lot more things, even details of the couple's sex life, to the chilling blasé way that Groves reacted to being arrested, coolly smoking a cigarette in a pink dressing gown in the kitchen of her serial killer decorated Havant home. Now, over the course of the court proceedings, the tragic and twisted story of Groves' life started to come out, where there was even pictures as recent as 2019. Groves can be seen smiling as she bakes cakes with her young daughter. And she looks comfortable with motherhood and at ease, happy, loving life. And in a post to her daughter prior to her start in primary school, Groves wrote of her pride that she had grown up to be a beautiful, independent girl with a whole lot of attitude and promised to always be here to guide you. And this doting mother, she was decidedly, showing a different image now, bloated with tattoos and piercings, her face seemingly set to permanent leering smirk in her police photos. You can even see some stuff that was found at her home. She was a crime junkie. I think that's actually part of a show, I think. But you can see what kind of her personality. Now, I enjoy following true crime, but I sure don't want a lot of memorabilia of true crime stuff, but that's just me. Now, another woman who met Groves once at a Pop World nightclub through her friendship with Miss White and also wished to remain anonymous, she said Shaye used to bully Lauren and make her do things. I've been out clubbing with her and Shaye was just a bit of a weirdo. Regarding her tattoos, she added, it must have been 2 years ago she had the throat one done. But she didn't have the big line down her face. And she used to have a lip piercing, but not all those other ones. She did start to dress a bit gothy about 2 years ago as she was turning goth. Weirdo. Now, this is her thoughts. I don't think that goths are weirdos. That's just my opinion on it. I thought I'd throw that in there. This is her thoughts about the goth in her. Now, prior to the gruesome murder, Groves had developed an unhealthy obsession with true crime. As I just showed you, a wall filled with serial killers and the mugs that she had. And that's where a lot of this was coming out. In the house that she shared with her young daughter, the walls were filled with photos of famous murderers from Jeffrey Dahmer to Ted Bundy. Now, whilst her daughter played with dolls, Groves would play with the decorative Celtic daggers that she kept on her coffin-shaped bookshelf. That was who she was. She was heavily into these type of things. You know, as I even showed you, the coffee cups that were decorated with film murderers. And at night, Groves, she would binge watch true crime documentaries and reread her collected books about gangsters, including the notorious prisoner Charles Bronson, who I shared a little about last time, which I did make a mistake of saying that he killed someone. He actually never killed someone. My apologies on there, and thank you for the person that corrected me. She even had serial killer mugs. This unhealthy obsession allied with a sexual fetish for heavy BDSM involving domination and machoism reached a crescendo when she was introduced to Frankie Fitzgerald, which she was absolutely enamored with the way he was in the sack. And that's what she said. That's what said to had led to this violent possessiveness because of his performance in the bedroom, and it made her allegedly crazy about him even more because the way he was is what she wanted. And over the course of their 6-month relationship, the two pushed their sexual appetites to the absolute limit, using 4 decorative knives with depictions of film villains Chucky, Jigsaw, and Pennywise. They would do this just for knife play. But as their taste became wilder, a line was fatally blurred. On July 17th of 2022, Groves flew into a jealous rage after she witnessed Frankie allegedly speaking to a 13-year-old 13-year-old girl on Instagram, which this claim was proven false. That night, as he slept, she took his twisted revenge and slit her lover's throat with a Celtic ritual dagger before madly stabbing at his chest 22 times. When he was quiet dead, the crazed true crime obsessive began to formulate an insidious plan to get away with her crime, using the tricks of the trade she had learned from her TV shows. Knowing that she would be the first suspect in Frankie's murder, Groves set about changing the optics and try to portray herself to her friend Vicky Badup as a victim of his sexual violence. In the horrid videos of that two having sex, Groves had clumsily edited the footage to make it appear as RAPE, a ruse that the prosecution saw through in the trial. She also rang a friend, giggling after killing her lover, showing his body and saying, "I've done him." But after all her lies and ruses, it ended the way it always does for the people in the true crime documentaries that she binged. She gets caught. Now she serves her life sentence. Sentencing her to life with a minimum term of 23 years old. Mr. Justice Kerr told Groves she was not a cold-blooded murderer and the killing was a crime of passion, telling her, you love the man you killed and you killed the man you loved. This was scant consolation for his family or Groves as she begins one of the life sentences she read about in her gangster books. And so this Leigh Park murder trial ended up having the ruthless killer Shaye Groves locked away for murdering Frankie Fitzgerald, only 25 years old, taken from this world way too soon after a frenzied knife attack at her Botley Drive, Leigh Park home on July 17th, in which she stabbed him in the neck and chest 22 times. Now, she denied the offense after pleading self-defense, and she smiled after she was found guilty by jurors at Winchester Crown Court following 4 days of deliberation. The same court her serial killer icon Rose West was jailed at in 1995. And now she was sentenced by Judge Timothy Kerr, who imposed a life term with a minimum sentence of 23 years. And Groves, she had been seen joking in the dock during the trial, and after she was found guilty, she was motionless as the sentence was delivered. And Judge Kerr, like I said, he says this, he described the killing as a senseless murder that was a crime of passion. He says, you lost your temper and acted on impulse. If you could not have Frankie, no one could, he said, before adding, you loved the man you killed and you killed the man you loved. You are not a cold-blooded murderer. A crime of passion is not committed in cold blood. Those were his words about this at the end of this Leigh Park murder trial. Rest in peace, Frankie Fitzgerald, taken from this world way too soon. My friends, that's exactly why I do this, so that I can be a voice for the victims and bring you more news on what could go wrong in this crazy world we live in. That way you could be a little more careful of your surroundings, of your area, the people you are trusting your life with. I'm Manny Rodriguez. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Deep True Crime. Until next time, my friends, be careful out there. Peace.